Week 2 has come to a close, and now it is time to open up the next chapter of the book, and that is week number 3. Some of you guys might be 0-2, some 1-1, others 2-0, and regardless of where you are sitting at this point in the season is not over. You do not have to panic just yet. And in today's video, I am going to help you win your week number 3 matchup. We're going to be breaking down every single game on the week 3 slate from Thursday Night Football all the way up until Monday Night Football. And I'll be telling you guys whether you should start or sit the quarterbacks in every single game and how I feel they're going to finish at the end of the week. Before we get on into things, though, I would like to ask if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills. Now, Tua and the Miami Dolphins offense looked much improved in week number 2, even though they did end up losing that game, and it was relatively embarrassing because Tua has never lost to the Patriots before. It wasn't as bad as week 1, where Indianapolis Daniel Jones had us down bad. Last time out up against the Bills, Tua was the quarterback 19, so I do expect Tua to get a ton of opportunities late in the game to score points, as they are down roughly 7 gazillion points and they have to throw the ball a ton, so he could backdoor his way into a garbage time top 12 finish, Blake Bortles style. Ultimately, though, I could also see him throwing multiple picks, maybe even fumbling the ball a time or two, so I think you should just stay away from Tua this week. For Josh Allen, despite the fact that the Buffalo Bills beat the Jets into a pulp, in MetLife, Josh Allen scored just 11.8 points as the quarterback 25. He did miss time in that game because he hurt his nose on a designed quarterback run play. He then came back into the game, and Bills PR said he was dealing with a bloody nose. The week prior, he led that phenomenal comeback up against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday Night Football as the quarterback number 1. Josh Allen owns the Miami Dolphins. Josh Allen lives rent-free in my head at this point. This guy just beats us every single year. The Dolphins with Tua have never won in Highmark Stadium, so it's a good thing they're demolishing this stadium and building a new one so that next year will be the year that we finally get them. Ultimately, Josh Allen's a must-start quarterback every single week. Doesn't matter if it's up against the garbage-ass Dolphins defense. Doesn't matter if it's up against the 85 Bears. You are going to play him as a clear top 2 quarterback on the week. Must start every single week. You don't draft a guy in the 2nd or the 3rd round as your quarterback to sit him. Next up, we move to the Sunday slate of games, beginning at 1 o'clock with the Green Bay Packers at the Cleveland Browns. Now, this feels like the kind of game that won't end up being uber high scoring. The Packers kind of coast to victory with their defense putting in the work, and Love finishes in the quarterback 14 to 18 range. I like Love, and he should still throw his typical 2 touchdowns, but this doesn't really have the making of a back and forth game that would elevate a quarterback like Jordan Love, who doesn't really run much, to finish as a high-end must-start quarterback. He has looked good in both games to start off the year. Even without Jaden Riley-Reed, I fully expect him to be fine, but I just would not expect a big showing here by any means. For Joe Flacco, after an alright week number 1, the guy looked lost like the old man he is. 25 of 45 up against a tough Ravens defense for 199 yards and a touchdown with an INT. Now facing one of the best defenses in the National Football League, there is no way you can make any argument to start geriatric Joe Flacco. Next up, you move to the Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans. Now, last week, I thought the sky would fall on Daniel Jones like it was Chicken Little up against the Denver Broncos. He put belt to ass up against the Miami Dolphins, but that game against a stout Broncos defense, it reeked of, hey, Daniel Jones pulled the wool over our eyes in week 1. He's going back down to the dungeon where he belongs. And that is the exact opposite of what happened. He was the quarterback 7, throwing for over 300 yards and a touchdown, as well as getting a rushing touchdown in that game. Back-to-back games with 1 passing touchdown and at least 1 rushing touchdown. It is crazy how good a quarterback can look when their offensive line isn't a complete and utter disaster and they have multiple solid weapons. Shane Steichen has Daniel Jones looking like a new man, and in a matchup up against a defense that just got lit up by Matthew Stafford, 298 yards and 2 tugs by the Unk himself. You got to feel good about Danny Dimes as a low-end quarterback 1 inside the top 12. Now, Cam Ward is still going through his rookie strides, back-to-back below optimal matchups up against the Broncos and up against the Rams. This week should be his best game yet due to the matchup. But ultimately, he has to actually do something for us to quantify starting him, and that just has not been the case thus far. Next up, we got the Cincinnati Bengals at the cold like Minnesota Vikings. Now, this is the kind of game where you don't even have to watch it. This is the kind of game where, hey, if you're a Bengals fan or a Vikings fan, get some extra points, go do something with your wife. Take your kids out for a walk. Don't fucking watch this game. This game absolutely reeks. Carson Wentz versus Jake Browning. Now, some of you guys are going to have to rely on this game for Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, T. Higgins. You got to play Justin Jefferson, Jordan, the numbers, Mason. What do they mean? So you guys may have fantasy players in this game, but this game on paper is just very bad. Joe Burrow is sidelined with the grade 3 turf toe injury that will have him missing at least 3 months. The team will look to Jake Browning for now. Now, this could be a scenario where they end up trading for a new quarterback, or one of the quarterbacks that they pick up eventually start, maybe cough, cough, famous Jameis Winston or Kirk Cousins becomes the QB1. But for this week, we'll see Jake Browning. Browning played quite well in relief of Joe Burrow, throwing 21 completions on 32 attempts for 241 passing yards and 2 touchdowns with 3 INTs, as well as 1 rushing touchdown as the quarterback 14. We have seen Browning step in when Burrow was hurt back in 2023, and that was actually a pretty solid experience. 5 of 7 games inside the top 9 at the quarterback position. This week, though, is a tough spot for him, right? We know that Jake Browning has that big game in him. We know he's got that dog in him, and he has all the weapons around him to succeed. But again, the offensive line sucks donkey dick. The offensive line is terrible in Cincinnati, and he's going up against a defense that allows the 26th most points to quarterbacks on a weekly basis, in a game where I believe the Minnesota Vikings are going to spam the run button and drip the clock down, use the chew clock feature in Madden. I am not ready to start Browning in 1 quarterback leagues. If you're in a 2 quarterback league, you're in a real pinch. Joe Burrow goes down. Sure, you can go ahead and play him. Carson Wentz is going to be stepping in for J.J. McCarthy, as he is expected to miss 2 to 4 games with a high ankle sprain. I mentioned this, the running back start sit video that you should definitely watch after this video, if you haven't seen it already, is that I didn't think J.J. McCarthy looked hurt at all on Sunday Night Football, and to me, it looked like he was maneuvering through the pocket perfectly fine. He was moving normally. Now, I am not a doctor. I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sin, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know everything. Maybe the adrenaline had something to do with it, but he looked perfectly fine, but it turns out he is not. Carson Wentz played in 1 game last year where he was up against the Broncos for the Chiefs in Denver, week 18, a game as a Dolphins fan that I wanted so badly for him to win so that the Dolphins could make the playoffs if they won their game and the Dolphins beat the Jets. Obviously, neither of those things happened, because why would the universe ever want me to be happy? Carson Wentz looked like straight up dog shit in that game. Maybe he looks better here, right? Because in that game, he didn't have the full offense to his disposal with the Chiefs. They were running out the 2s, so I get it. You know, now he has the first team with him. Maybe he plays better, but I'm not rolling the dice on Carson Wentz in the year 2025. Next up, we move to the Pittsburgh Steelers at the New England Patriots. Now, before Rodgers and the Steelers took on the Seahawks last week, I told everyone to calm their titties. I told everyone to pump the brakes on Rodgers. He looked like he turned back the clock in MetLife up against the Jets. He laid a smackdown brother on the Jets in week number 1, and I told everybody, hey, it is far from a guarantee that he is actually that guy game in and game out. Sure, maybe he has rejuvenated himself in Pittsburgh. Maybe things will go better in Pittsburgh because the Jets are just a dysfunctional team, and last year that was even more the case. So maybe he'll figure it out, but just wait and see, right? Watch from afar with some binoculars, peeping Tom style, right? Just pay attention from afar. You don't have to throw him in your lineup. And I was right to do that because he didn't look good really at all. He was markedly worse in week number 2. 18 of 33 for 203 yards and a touchdown with 2 interceptions. The Patriots defense didn't look great, so Rodgers could bounce back just still not in the range where I would feel confident or comfortable starting him. For Draco May, the Iceman, he looked fantastic up against the Dolphins last week in Hard Rock. He had me in shambles. 19 of 23 for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns, as well as 10 rushes for 31 yards and a rushing touchdown. The Steelers' defense really has been largely overrated this season and definitely overpaid for how much money the Pittsburgh Steelers are handing out to these guys. With 2 solid starts in May's track record to start off the season, I definitely do like him as a mid-range quarterback 1 this week, but I don't want to gas him up too hard because that Dolphins defense is such a disaster. You know, maybe Carson Wentz could do that against the Dolphins. Next up, we got the LA Rams at the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Matthew Stafford, in my opinion, is one of the best quarterbacks in the league and is a quarterback that I would trust if he was on my hypothetical team to march down the field in a playoff game and win me the game late, score that game-winning touchdown. With that said, though, fantasy football and real life are very, very different. In fantasy, a guy like Stafford, who is a statue in the pocket and has 0 upside to rush the ball at this point in his career, he's going to need to throw 300 plus yards and 2 to 3 touchdowns to actually have a start-worthy day, assuming all of the other quarterbacks around the NFL play remotely solid on par. Obviously, Matthew Stafford could be the QB1 if a bunch of quarterbacks shit the bed and he goes out there and throws 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, right? But I don't really think that is the most likely scenario. He did look great up against the Titans last week, so I do expect him to play good, to be able to elevate Puka Nacua, to be able to elevate Devontae Adams, Kyren Williams, the offense around him, but he's just not that guy he used to be for fantasy. I just don't feel remotely comfortable enough starting him. For the Philadelphia Eagles, despite the Eagles being 2-0, Jalen Hurts hasn't had to do anything. Last week, he threw for 101 yards and rushed for 15 yards in Arrowhead. Will it get better? Of course it will. He was the quarterback 8 in week number 1 and scored 24.3 points. This is a matchup that could force him to actually have to fucking do something, which just was not the case last week up against the Chiefs. I'm not going to panic. I do think things will get better for Jalen Hurts, but his floor might be in the basement this season just due to the fact that the team might really just be that fucking good that they don't even have to throw the ball a ton with Jalen Hurts or utilize him heavily, which is crazy to say because he's the quarterback of the team. Next up, we move to the New York Jumbo Jets at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But before we break down this game in depth and the rest of the games on the Week 3 slate, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description, you receive a free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus funds, as well as if you play your first pick'em, you play $5, you receive $50 in bonus funds. How the pick'em works is incredibly simple. You pick at least 2 players, they're higher or they're lower. If both the picks hit, you get paid. If you do multiple other picks, then the payout will be higher, but all of the picks have to hit. Make sure you guys do check that out. Promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description. So, moving back to the Jets and the Bucs. Justin Fields was noticeably trash. Dog shit. He was on the struggle bus prior to the concussion up against the Buffalo Bills. 3 of 11 for 27 yards and 5 rushes for 49 yards. Had he have played the whole game, if he played the whole game, then he probably would have backdoored a touchdown or 2 in garbage time, or maybe ran around enough to have a okay enough game to where you didn't get completely shafted. But that is just a large if. Shout out to Justin Herbert. If he is able to play, though, he would be startable against the Bucs just due to the amount of upside that he has. But we definitely don't feel nearly as good about him as we did going into last week up against the Bills. He would just be in the quarterback 2 range. Now, based upon what head coach Aaron Glenn has said, I think it is far from a guarantee that he actually suits up, because if he's not practicing until Friday, it doesn't even seem like the team would feel confident enough to roll him out there. So definitely something to monitor. If Tyrod Taylor does get to play when Fields is out, 7 completions on 11 attempts for 56 yards and a tug with 3 rushes for 21 yards. He has solid rushing upside, but ultimately, there is really no need to start Tyrod, because we all know damn well Tyrod is Tyrod, and that could lead to a large disappointment. Baker Mayfield slung his cock around like Indiana Jones with his whip last week up against the Texans. clutch game-winning drive to beat the Houston Texans. Baker looked phenomenal. He was running all around. He was big dick in the defense. I love Baker Mayfield, and I wish my Dolphins had Baker Mayfield instead of fucking the Hawaiian lefty sack of shit Tua Tagovailoa, who is a nice guy, but frankly, he doesn't have the cojones that a guy like Baker Mayfield has, man. I love Baker Mayfield, and I loved him on the Cleveland Browns. The Browns really effed that one up. Back-to-back 19-plus point showings. Now, if Tua beats the Bills, I'll be back on the Tua bandwagon, baby. Let's go Tua. Back-to-back 19-plus point showings, and against a Jets defense that hasn't looked great and let Aaron Rodgers pipe them down, you gotta feel good about Baker. He has yet to throw an interception this season, knock on wood, and was 25 of 38 for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns, as well as 3 rushes for 33 yards up against the Texans on Monday Night Football. I feel like Baker's big game is coming. He's a mid-range quarterback one weekly, and that's the exact same thing this week. You're feeling real nicey about him. Next up, we got the Las Vegas Raiders at the Washington Commanders. Now, Jaden Stormy Daniels is dealing with a knee injury that he suffered in Green Bay. He was limping towards the end of that matchup. If he does not play, we'll get Marcus Mariota under center against the Raiders. If Jaden does end up suiting up, then his rushing upside will be severely limited, if not completely wiped out, and he might not even run at all. Daniels has fallen outside the top 12 in back-to-back games, but has scored 19-plus points in both showings. So you're obviously going to continue to start him, and once him and Terry rekindle their chemistry, then things are going to get a lot better. But with a lack of rushing upside, I would have to just put him in the low-end QB1 to high-end QB2 range. There's more question marks this week compared to previously. Now, again, you are going to start him if you drafted him, right? You're not just cutting loose on Jaden Daniels, but you definitely want to make sure that you have a backup plan in case he does not play. Geno Smith was so bad against the Chargers that there's this old school saying where the game was so bad, you burn the tape, right? You just take the tape, you fucking dig a hole in your front yard, you throw the tape in there, bury it, you don't have to think about it again. It was legitimately so bad that I don't know how it could possibly be that bad again. He was so shit that it was actually shocking. Throwing the ball into double coverage, egregiously bad decision-making, and while I don't think Geno is like the greatest quarterback ever, it did seem pretty uncharacteristic for him to be that bad for a whole game. He makes stupid decisions all the time, but that many stupid decisions in a row was crazy. The Chargers defense is really good, so I will not have too much worry going forward about Geno Smith, especially with Brock Bowers getting more healthy. Geno is always going to flirt with potentially cracking the top 18 start-worthy guy, right? This week, he's in the fringe range up against the Commanders' defense. For instance, on our next game, we're going to be talking about Michael Penix Jr., the Falcons versus the Panthers. If you were like, Nick, I would rather start Geno over Penix. They both sucked last week. I feel a little bit more confident in Geno. I'm not going to sit in the comment section and be like, you're an idiot for starting Geno instead of Penix. They're basically in the exact same range. If you just flip a few players, some of these guys that are sits would become starts, and some of the guys that are starts would become sits, obviously. Next up, we move to game number 9, the Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. Now, Michael Penix went off in week 1. The late game heroics against the Buccaneers, even though they still lost the game because Young Hoku missed the game-winning kick, he was the quarterback 10. Then he shit the bed in week 2 up against the Vikings. But there's definitely context as to why he didn't do too well, right? If you just are a box score watcher, you didn't watch the game, you might not realize why Penix played so bad. For one, Rizzy Drake London was banged up with the AC sprain. That hurts. For two, they just ran all over the Vikings. They didn't have to throw the ball. They coast to victory, kicking a million flags with something, or kicking a million field goals with fucking Romo was his last name. Shout out to Tony. I don't know, Jim. But yeah, I really think that that's just a game you just erase from the mind. If they could spam run the ball, why would they worry about using Michael Penix when they could just spam Bijan straight down the throat and it works? This week up against the Panthers, if Bryce Young locks in, this could be a game where they have to throw the ball more. Now, I'm not in love with this matchup by any means, but Penix is in that fringe start quarterback 2 range. Hopefully, a more healthy version of Drake London can help him out this week. Last week was just disgusting. If you started Bryce Young, the game starts off with a fumble on the opening drive against the Cardinals that the Cardinals defense took straight to the cribbo, to the end zone, followed by the team scoring just 3 total points in the first half. Down by 1,000,000, the Panthers offense lit it up in the second half, leading to Bryce Young finishing as the quarterback 8 on a week where he threw the ball 55 times, which is insane and more than likely going to be the highest amount of times he throws the ball this season by a very wide margin. 35 completions for 328 yards and 3 touchdowns with the pick. I still deep down believe in Bryce Young. Something just tells me that the micro quarterback will figure it out like he did down the stretch of last season, but against a Falcons defense that allows the 27th most points to quarterbacks on a weekly basis, I would definitely not feel confident about starting him in one quarterback leagues. He's my second quarterback in my Superflex league. I'm debating between him and Mac Jones, and ultimately, I know for sure I'm going to make the wrong decision. Whichever guy I sit is going to go absolutely nuclear. That's just how it goes. Next up, we move to the Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars in Duval. Trevor Lawrence of the Jaguars. This dude absolutely bent us over a table in week number 1. Fantastic matchup up against the Panthers. The man goes 24 of 42 for 271 yards and 3 touchdowns with 2 INTs up against the Bengals in Cincinnati in week 2. A game that Joe Burrow got hurt in, and they still somehow lost the game. Trevor's play has been incredibly frustrating. I still can't stand the guy. The Texans defense is no joke. So yes, Lawrence is serviceable as a fringe quarterback too, but again, if I ranked him a spot or 2 lower, we'd be talking about maybe ranking Geno ahead of him. Watching the Texans feels like I'm watching the Bengals. Great quarterback that has an offensive line that could lead to serious injury. Stroud drops back half a second after the ball's been snapped, and there are multiple large men right in the guy's grill. I am not wishing injury on Stroud, and I hope it doesn't come off as me saying that. I don't want anyone to get hurt, but this is just a large concern, especially watching that game solo. Monday Night Football, it's the only thing on. You're just staring at the offensive line, and they are crumbling. The offensive line is terrible, and that really hurts Stroud's ability to stay up long enough to even hit Nico Collins, who is wide open all the time because the offensive line is so bad. Back-to-back games outside the top 20, and even though I like the matchup up against the Jaguars, and even though I like CJ Stroud, I am not starting him. Next up, we move to the 4 p.m. slate, beginning with the Denver Broncos at the Los Angeles Superchargers. After a lackluster week 1 up against the Titans, where Bo Nix was playing like he smoked some crack before the game, he bounced back in week number 2 in Indy as the quarterback 12, 22 completions on 30 attempts for 206 yards, and not 1, not 2, but 3 tugs with 1 INT. The Chargers matchup is mid-range, so Big Dick Bo Nix should be fine as a low-end quarterback 1 to high-end quarterback 2. Now, the Chargers have legitimately led me astray. Run amok. I was so wrong on the Chargers. Not because I thought the Chargers would be like Dick Cheese or something, but because I thought the Chargers were going to be a run-heavy team. It's the Harbaugh way. They're going to run the ball gently down the stream. O'Marion Hampton's going to get 1,000,000 carries. We're going to feel so good. Justin Herbert's going to be kind of meh. Ladd will have fun. Keenan will have fun. QJ will be fucking useless, right? But instead, they're running it back to just throwing the ball 1,000,000 times. And they did it in week 1. I'm like, you know what? Maybe that'll decrease. No, week 2, throw the ball 1,000,000 times as well. So through the first 2 games of the season, Herbert's doing his Dan Marino impression, pick a guy and let it fly. The weapons around him are supreme, like one of those old school hype beast hoodies. And you gotta love Herbert going forward. 18 plus points in back-to-back games, and he hasn't thrown an interception yet. The Broncos defense allows the 31st most points to quarterbacks, but we did just see Daniel Jones play incredibly well up against them last week. Ultimately, Herbert has looked too good to sit him, even if the Broncos defense is great. He is a locked and loaded top 10 option for me. Game number 12, we got the Saints at the Seahawks, and we'll keep this one short and sweet. Spencer Rattler was the quarterback number 10 last week. I was very proud that he actually didn't look like shit last week. 25 of 34 for 207 yards and 3 touchdowns. Round of applause for Spencer Rattler. Discount Patrick Mahomes. Walmart Patrick Mahomes. Dollar store Patrick Mahomes. I talked about him so negatively all season. talked about him so negatively last year, and he did well, so I will give him his credit. He did look good. And you know what? That would be just great for the Saints offense, but after just one good game, right? One magical pull the rabbit out the hat, I'm not starting Spencer Rattler. Mono man Sam Darnold greatly improved from week 1 to week number 2 when he played up against the Steelers in Pittsburgh. He still threw 2 picks, though. And even if you like this spot against the Saints, who allow the 8th most points to quarterbacks on a weekly basis, I just don't have a single ounce of confidence in Sam Darnold right now for me to trust him enough to roll him out again in week 3. It's not bye-pocalypse. There's not 8,000 teams on bye. I know there's quarterbacks dealing with injuries, but if you have to roll out Sam Darnold, you are not going to be feeling... John Gruden would not be feeling nicey. Next up, we move to the Dallas Cowboys at the Chicago Bears. Now, Dak Prescott last week is the perfect example of why you don't panic before the game is over. There was a bunch of people ringing my line throughout multiple different avenues to tell me that, Nick, you are a fucking idiot. Nick, you told me to draft Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott was a waste of a pick. Nick, you can go fuck yourself. And then by the end of the game, it's crickets. Where are all the haters at now? After Dak Prescott plays not so good in the first half, and then he lights it up like a Christmas tree, and no one is anywhere to be found. And again, I'm not calling anyone individually out. It is what it is. I get why you'd be mad if I told you to play someone and it doesn't go well, but that's why you don't overreact at halftime. Sure, if the game ended and Dak Prescott sucked donkey dick, go right ahead. Come after me. I can take it. It's fine. I get things wrong all the time, just like you will. But coming after me in the middle of the game was kind of some crazy work, I won't lie. And then he played well, so shout out to Dak for saving those individuals. And it wasn't just one person, it was multiple people. And if it was you, it's okay. Just don't get too mad. It's only a game. Why you have to be mad? And no one had anything to say to me after the man finishes the quarterback 5 with 38 completions on 52 attempts for 361 yards and 2 touchdowns with 1 INT. Dak has looked sharp in both showings, even if the stat sheet didn't show that in week 1, going up against a Bears defense that I believe is going to get cream pied just like they did by Jared Goff and the Lions. Dak is a must-start top 6 quarterback on the week. Caleb Williams has been okay to start off the season. I think things will eventually click with the Ben Johnson system, and the Bears can become a competent offense. 18-plus points in back-to-back showings, and with Russell Wilson just carving up the Cowboys like a Thanksgiving turkey, you got to feel good about the upside that Caleb possesses this week. I got him as a low-end quarterback 1. Next up, we got the Arizona Cardinals at the San Francisco 49ers, the final game before we get to Sunday night and Monday night football, so make sure you guys are subscribed if you are new to the channel. So 2 straight games outside the top 12 for Kyler Murray, and Kyler has looked fine. Ultimately, he has big upside due to his legs and how much he could rush in any given game, but against a 49ers defense that allows the 28th most points to quarterbacks, I don't love it. Sure, that was against Rattler and Darnold, so the stats might be a little bit inflated. You got to take that with a grain of salt, but based on production this season, he just feels like a high upside, high-end quarterback too. Mystic Mac Jones dialed in last week like the chef Boyardee himself when he created those raviolis. He produced a masterpiece in New Orleans, 26 completions on 39 attempts for 279 yards and 3 touchdowns to QB9. I like what I saw last week, but ultimately, I know who Mac Jones is, right? I'm not going to be fooled by fucking Mac Jones. We know he could easily fall off the edge of the earth at any time. Plus, this is a matchup that's not super fruitful for quarterbacks as the Saints matchup was last week, so I would prefer to sit him, but he is in the range of potential starters. Next up, we move to, cause you waited all day for Sunday night, even though no one in their right mind waited for the Kansas City Chiefs at the New York Football Giants in MetLife. Even despite the woes of the Chiefs to start off the season, Patrick Mahomes has been rock solid. Quarterback 6 in back-to-back showings. Last week, up against the Eagles, he was 16 of 29 for 187 yards and a touchdown with 1 INT. He also had 7 rushes for 66 yards and a touchdown. The interception was kind of bogus since Kelsey fucked that up, but I digress. Back-to-back games with the rushing touchdown. He has been very reliable so far, so I'm rocking with him up against the Giants, where Dak just had a solid game against them last week. Mr. Unlimited, the last time Russ scored 30-plus fantasy points outside of last week, think about it. When's the last time Russ did that? Oh, yeah, it was probably like 2022. 2023, maybe. No. It was week 3 of 2020 up against, you guessed it, the Dallas Cowboys. Last week, he was 30 of 41 for 450 yards and 3 touchdowns with a pick, as well as 3 rushes for 23 yards. It was truly awesome to see Russ get that swagger back, but at the end of the day, do we really think he's going to put up a huge showing up against the Chiefs? Of all teams who are now 0-2 and are going to be looking to rain hell upon the Giants, I don't think so. Spags should have all the answers for Russ. I would be happy for Russ if he had a great game and shocks the world again, because I do like Russ, but this really does not seem like the matchup for him to do so. Final game here is going to be Monday Night Football, a game you're actually waited all night for, the Detroit Lions at the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Jared Goff put up a stinker performance up against the Packers in Green Bay, though he did bounce back in quick fashion up against the Bears as the quarterback won 23 of 28 for 334 yards and 5 touchdowns. I love this spot for Goff yet again, and I think based on the game total alone, Goff becomes a top 12 quarterback. It's honestly just crazy how the Packers defense really is that good that they had me thinking, and a lot of people thinking that maybe the Lions are not going to be looking as good this year without Ben Johnson, but I feel 100% confident in Goff as a quarterback 1. Lamar was the quarterback 4 in back-to-back showings against the Bills and the Browns. This matchup has the highest over-under on the week, so you got to just expect a firefight back and forth between these two teams. Action Jackson is a must-start quarterback every single week, and if you have him on your team, you probably didn't have to even watch this video for me to jabber about him. You knew you were going to start him. Regardless of the matchup, this is a great spot, though. I got him as a clear top 2 quarterback. Him and Josh Allen, basically every week, going to be the quarterback 1 and quarterback 2 in some capacity. Some weeks it'll be Lamar 1. Some weeks it will be Josh Allen 1. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It'd help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Hope you guys have a great rest of your guys' day. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. As always, good boy!